right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is where we do business every single night with you. It's your opportunity to call, air your opinions about Pittsburgh sports. It's 412-575-2600. Bob Pompeani here in the Fan Cave. Andrew Fillipponi up at 93.7 The Fan on the eve of the nipple piercing, which we'll get to in a little bit. I just want to know about your prep time, but we'll do that after the break. In the meantime, first I want to talk about the Penguins. Back-to-back games. They were not at their best tonight, but they got a point, mostly because of Artur Shilovs, who's good in front of regulation time. When he gets to shootout, he seems to have problems, and this dates back to when he was with Vancouver as well. That has to change a little bit. However, they got a point tonight on the road when it didn't look like they would. I'm just curious about your take on how this game ended. There was a lot of stuff going on. Trevor Zegras pulled a helmet off of Noel Acciari, and he's lucky he didn't get into a fight with him because he would have lost. That kind of stuff eliminated him from the shootout, and Sidney Crosby, who I guess came off the bench, was also eliminated from the shootout. So two of the best at what they do were not available in that game. It's kind of a wild finish.
Yeah, that was new to me. I look at, the Malkin goal being disallowed too in overtime, Bob. How often do you see that rule enforced where they decide, okay, he was still on he jumped over before the goalie came to the bench for a delayed penalty? I guess by the letter of the law, that was right. I mean, Dan Muse did not want to argue that after the game. He thought it was probably the appropriate call. I thought this game was lost, and I know they got a loser point to extend their streak to 7 games, which is good, really good. I think this game was really lost in 2 places. Number one, I thought their second period was terrible. I thought they basically mailed in that second period, and they've not done a lot of that this year. So I thought that was an area of the game where they obviously could have been much better. They basically threw 20 minutes away. And the power play, 0 for 4. And I didn't feel like they got good opportunities really on their power play tonight either, Bob. Especially
in overtime. That's when it's 4-on-3, and you would expect some ice. Again, I thought they were guilty of doing some things, some bad habits from last year. Too much passing, not enough shooting, and also some sloppy plays. I don't know if it was back-to-back, whatever the case may be. I saw remnants of what we saw last year. So we'll see what happens. They have a few days off here, but they're 7-2-2. Not a bad start for this team. The Steelers, on the other hand, they got their work cut out for them. They're coming off 2 terrible defensive performances, and that has dragged themselves into the 32nd spot in passing defense, 30th, I think, overall, which is terrible given this group of people here and what they're doing. But now you got a team like Indianapolis, which is number 1 on many offensive stat lines, and they come in here red hot at 7-1. Tonight, Kyle Duggar was acquired by trade by Omar Khan with New England, and I'm a little surprised that I don't know what the deal was in New England, but he was a former second-round pick. He was playing with the Patriots this year, Andrew. 9 career interceptions. He seems to be a playmaking kind of guy. I'm amazed that he was even available, but they got him in swapping late-round picks as well.
Yeah, the Steelers have taken on both New England safeties who fell out of favor with the coaching
Where's
change
Jabril
there.
Peppers, by the way? Why isn't he playing if these guys have all these problems?
I agree. He's only a special teams player right now. Mike Tomlin said today that Deshaun Elliott's out and that it's a week-to-week injury, but now we hear he's probably going to get placed on IR, and this trade would support that they're looking for additional safety depth. Look, desperate times call for desperate measures. I understand that. I don't think calling for guys off the New England scrap heap is going to solve the Steelers' problems. They need corners right now who can cover. And I think Darius Slay, we saw him basically get benched in the Green Bay game. He has not lived up to his 1-year deal. I think Joey Porter Jr.'s had a disappointing season to this point. We've seen Jalen Ramsey in 60-minute games have big plays, but also give up big plays. So he's had a so-so season when you add everything up. The bottom line, Bob, is when the secondary is left to defend, when the pass rush doesn't get home, we see it get exposed. And they only have 1 sack in their last 2 games. And that's just not going to cut it, given what they've invested in those edge rushers, too.
No, absolutely. If you're going to go after the quarterback, you better get him. And it doesn't necessarily have to always become a blitz situation. But if you can't win those battles, those guys are going to be on an island out there with some of these talented guys. And make no mistake, you got a tight end coming in here who's very good. Just following the effort that we saw against, Kraft the other night, I just wonder what they're going to do here in this situation, because They got weapons everywhere, and that's made the job of just about everyone easier, starting with Jonathan Taylor. He sets the stage. If they run, you got to respect that, and then everyone else looks good, whether it's tight ends, wide receivers, or anyone else.
Well, the more I've thought about this, I'm surprised that Jalen Ramsey didn't get the Kraft assignment, and really, I hope he gets Tyler Warren, because we see him line up in the slot. We know he's a good tackler. I think he'll have an easier time keeping up with tight ends than wide receivers. And I thought that was an adjustment the Steelers probably should have made against Green Bay. Let's get Ramsey on Kraft. And if the other receivers beat us, which they probably would have, so be it. But I thought they could have made that adjustment to stop the bleeding. And of all the guys in the pass game, and there are some great ones for the Colts, very good players, I think the number one guy to stop is Tyler Warren. And I'd rather have Jalen Ramsey get in that assignment than their other safeties or one of their corners or linebackers, Bob, at this point. You got him for a reason to be a queen on the chessboard. I would use him that way against Indianapolis and have him neutralize Tyler Warren in this matchup.
That probably is their best move ahead of this game, because it is going to be a tough one. And then they follow it up with a trip out west to take on the Chargers. So it doesn't not get any easier. In Kansas City, it looks like they've got their mojo back. And who knows, Baltimore may creep back into this one. We have our question tonight, KDKA.com/connect, and it's now that they made this trade for Duggar, do you think the Steelers are going to make a bigger move at this trade deadline coming up? And there you see it at the Penn West University. Yes or no on that question, another trade, and will it be bigger than this? We'll find out what you have to say. And when we come back, we have talk about this matchup as well as some of the other stuff going on in sports, which include the World Series and a game last night that was crazy to me. I stayed up and watched it all, and I want to know if you did, Andrew. Yes or no? Yes?
No, I did not stay up, but I did watch it back.
Yeah, well, I know you do. You always watch everything, but I was up with adrenaline anyway, so I decided to watch. What a game it was. We'll talk about that and more as we continue right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We are live on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. Welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night from Rap Sheet, Ian Rappaport. More details on this trade. The Patriots are going to be paying most of the $5.4 million that's left on Kyle Duggar's original base of $9.75. The final two contract years also have been wiped out. Source tells Rappaport he'll be a free agent after 2025. So all things considered, Andrew, that seems like a good move. They're not on the hook for any of that, and it seems like a pretty good player, at least somebody who can come in here and you would hope quickly assimilate to what the Steelers are doing and give them something back there, because right now their secondary is not very good.
Well, I'd assume he's going to play. You don't give up a draft pick even though it's a late-round swap, I think, to just have somebody sit on the bench, especially given kind of the urgency now with Elliott out. Here's the question, though, Bob. They've made such a big deal, and rightfully so, about how communication issues have plagued them defensively, in that they're giving up plays in the pass game because these safeties and corners can't get on the same page with each other. Well, now you just brought another guy in from the outside. And the safety, who's largely been in charge of that so far this year, is now going to miss the next month. So, okay, here's a guy that has some talent, obviously. He's shown he has some ability, he did in New England. But how does he fit in? How much does he play? And how does he affect the other people? Because they've really shown a complete lack of ability at that position specifically, in their secondary, to bring guys in and get everybody to play well together. And I don't see why Kyle Duggar would be any different in that regard.
Good point. We'll see, but they need good performances from all those guys moving forward. It's not going to be easy, and 4-3 could soon become 4-5 if they don't get this stuff cleaned up fairly quickly. Let's go to the phone lines, and we begin with our number one Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. That would be Brian in North Huntington. Brian joins us here on the hotline. What's up, Brian?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'd like to ask you guys if you could play out a scenario for me. I know 9-8 is a popular record for the Steelers to have down through the years, but let's say the Steelers are 7-9 going into the flex game against the Ravens into the last game of the year. My question is, do you think, in order to avoid a very embarrassing Black Monday for Art Sr., do you think that Tomlin could consider announcing that he's going to resign and do it in the Tuesday press conference before the Ravens game in order to let Art Sr. down?
No. none of that's going to happen. You could very well be 7-9. In fact, the winning team in this division that gets there could be 9-8. You know, I didn't think that was possible at the beginning of the season. I looked at the AFC North as one of the tougher divisions in football. And here we are now looking at what is a possibility of only one team making the playoffs there. So what do you think? 9-8, 10-7, or even 8-9 might win the whole thing. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's clearly the worst in the AFC. You've got New England and Buffalo in the AFC East. You've got 3 teams in the AFC West, Denver, the Chargers, and Kansas City, obviously. And then the AFC West, you have Indianapolis, been the toast of the NFL so far this year, the best team. Jacksonville still has a winning record. They're trending down. Houston has a losing record, but they're trending up. Their defense is allowing under 15 points per game, Baba. Steelers, I didn't know that was allowed in the NFL. They still play defense that way. But Houston has. And so, yeah, you've got 3 legitimate teams there. You've got really maybe 1.5 in the AFC North right now. Lamar Jackson is going to play. It's already confirmed for Thursday night against Miami. And by the way, they should get in trouble for that. If the Steelers lost a draft pick because of padded practices back in the day with Chuck Noll, basically lying on an injury report about Lamar Jackson and how much he practiced and who he practiced with, should cost the Ravens a draft pick.
Absolutely it should. It's deception is what it is, and they should take this stuff very seriously. The league has, you know, they've watched what happened with the NBA and all of this stuff going. The last thing they want is to have a controversy like this. So absolutely it's worthy of a suspension. We'll see what happens, but that's a big game for Baltimore. If they get to 3-5 and then, you know, schedule eases up after that, they could make a run here to get to 6-5 or better than that. We'll see how that goes. Back to the lines, we have Bill in Cranberry. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Andrew. Hi, Bob. You know, everybody's talking about the Steeler defense, and rightly so, because so far they stink. Why don't the Steelers, what do you think about them changing up and going to a 3-5-3 type of alignment? Because if you have more linebackers, those 5 linebackers, it'll help cover the middle of that field that is inherently wide open for other teams.
Well, you know, I mean, they do sub-package football a lot. So when you say 3-4 or 4-3, it's not really that most of the time. But if you do that, you get guys, it doesn't matter. If you give quarterbacks like Flacco, quarterbacks like Jordan Love time, they're going to find open guys and put the ball right on the money. I would say that of Aaron Rodgers, too. They got to get pressure on some of these guys. The only way you really, although I think Jordan Love is very good against the blitz, so that was one of those situations. And when I saw that matchup, I said, if you blitz him, you may pay the price. They blitzed, they didn't get to him, and they did.
Yeah, you know, I don't think it's a formation problem for the Steelers' defense. I think it's obviously twofold. I think it's a lot of things, but yeah, I think the schematics in terms of how they defended guys the last 2 weeks have been mistakes by the coaching staff. You know, they freaked out over the Bengals running the ball. They got into more of a run defense posture, and that's when Jamar Chase really killed them and ripped them apart. And then last week, they stopped the run, but the short passing game, throws out into the flats, killed them. Soft defensive play from corners and in coverage. So I think that's got to get addressed. I think they're trying to cover up some weaknesses that they didn't think they had on paper before the season started. It's not a good situation, and it could be made worse by the fact that the Colts have been the best offense consistently week to week in the NFL. They got no problem scoring 35 points a game on people.
No. And their defense
they've done it to just about everybody.
Yeah, their defense is very good, too. It gets overlooked in this, but they're very good at taking the ball away and making it tough. Of course, it's a lot easier to play defense when your team is scoring 35 points ahead of you. So I want to get to baseball. I teased that in the first segment. Last night, 18 innings. It was unbelievable how it went. Freddie Freeman, who twice previously, before he hit the home run in the 18th, had driven the ball to the wall. He was swinging well, and the last one was going to get out, and it did. But, man, 6 hours and 40 minutes to get it done. I want to ask you about the ghost runner, because this is why Major League Baseball wanted it in the regular season. They don't want bullpens to be spent. But in a game like this, when you see it going 18 innings and all the pitchers were pretty much used, Yamamoto is warming up trying to potentially get in there in the 19th inning. Do you think a ghost runner is something that they should consider for the postseason or not?
No, I do not. Look, part of baseball is the demands of the game before affecting the game the next day. And the team that responds the best or is able to survive that and adapt with that adversity the best. So, no, I think baseball's been played this way for 150 years. I would not want to use a gimmick in the playoffs to determine a world champion. Now, I acknowledge at the same time, 6+ hours when a game starts after 8 o'clock, no one on the East Coast other than people up in Canada are going to stay up for that. Or you, Bob, with the schedule you work. So that's a bad situation. I also have no issue whatsoever with the number of times Toronto walked Shohei Ohtani.
No, I agree.
Okay, none at all. That's part of the strategy of baseball. Most teams would take a free 90 feet. Yes, it takes the bat out of his hands, and people want to see that. But I'm not also going to now change a rule just because we want to see one guy hit or force. You can't even do that because the pitcher would deliberately throw 4 balls that are out of the strike zone. What are you going to say? You have to throw strikes to the guy? So, no, I'm not a fan of trying to jake the system there either and make it so you have to pitch to a guy just because we like him.
No, I totally agree, and they did the right thing. And they should have won the game. They had a couple of good opportunities before it ever got to 18 innings. And the thing is, Ohtani, 9 times on base, 4 for 4, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 5 walks. 1 was sort of an intentional walk, so it was unintentionally intentional. But I go back to Barry Bonds, who was one of the best, and he had the same sort of respect to the point where I once saw a team walk him with the bases loaded. They were not going to let him hit no matter what. And if you do that, and I think in Ohtani's future, if he's up in that situation, you may see the same result.
Buck Showalter did that in Texas. I remember that just like it was yesterday. Yep. How unorthodox and how insane that was, but it made sense at the time, given how incredible Barry Bonds was as a hitter at that time. Better than obviously Ohtani is as a hitter, but didn't do the pitching part of it like Ohtani does. Bob, I got to be honest, though. I watch these things because I love baseball and the history of the sport, but it's just such a drag when you see this and you think about, am I ever going to watch my team on this stage again in my life? Right? I mean, it just seems like it's such an impossibility. Like it can't ever happen, and that in some ways does take away from my enjoyment of these games because I can't picture my own team being there.
And it's a shame, too, with a guy like Skeens. You want to see him in a high-leverage situation. Hopefully we will, but I'm in agreement with you. I don't think so, and that's on Bob Nutting and their approach to how they do this business-wise. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the big night tomorrow night for Andrew Fillipponi. It is the nipple piercing event that's going on, all for a good cause. I give you a lot of credit for that. All details are coming up, so if you want to go, he'll let you know all the details when we come back. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live on KDKA Plus and 93.7 FM. Pony pierces cancer. Andrew, give us the details.
Tomorrow night, Mike's Beer Bar next to PNC Park, 6 to 8. At 7:30, the piercing happens. We've got all kinds of cool stuff going on. The ticket price, all of it goes right to the McGee Institute for Cancer Awareness and Research. So, yeah, come down if you can. Mario Lemieux found out about this, Bob, and donated a jersey to be part of it.
That's
he
awesome.
wanted to be a part of this event. So thank you, 66 out there, for your generosity.
He's always invested in this kind of stuff. I'm glad to see it, and it should be a marquee night for you. Hopefully you don't feel the pain. Pony, have a good night.
I'm going to cry, Bob. Goodbye.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.